With me now, I have Professor Kila, Professor of Strategy and Development and Institute Director at the Commonwealth Institute of Advanced and Professional Studies, CIAPS, as well as Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, Professor Aworawo, Professor Kila, good to see both of you.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Today, thank you. Thank you. I brought snow for you. As they say. Well, today we've looked at a number of subjects. One, kidnappers putting the security agencies to shame with the rise in kidnapping, banditry. Two, the relocation of certain departments of government from Abuja to Lagos. Three, the federal government of Nigeria saying that there will be a 140-man committee to assess the performance of ministers so far, looking at key performance indicators. And then, of course, Nigeria's performance yesterday at Afcon 2023, where we beat Cameroon, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon, to qualify for the quarterfinals. Let me start with you, Professor Aworawo.
I will begin with the kidnapping experience that has escalated in the past couple of weeks. It has taken a dimension that is very disturbing. People are just kidnapped, taken to the bush, people are shot and killed, ransom is demanded, and they are getting the ransom. In some instances, security agencies have gone after them, neutralized some of them, but sometimes there's collateral damage. Some other time, they don't quite succeed in rescuing those they go and rescue. And sometimes, tragically, they also lose some of their men. Like we said the other time, the government needs to really pay far more attention than it has done to combating this spate of kidnapping across the country. It will appear that the government does not appreciate the seriousness. It's something that the government would declare something like a state of emergency against, mobilize all resources such that this thing is effectively combated. Take, for instance, the family where the father was kidnapped, 5 girls were kidnapped, and the most senior shot dead. We understand they had to pay ransom before they were released. One will expect that as soon as they were released, security agency will go after them and try and snub them out. We only heard that they arrested one in a hotel, not in the bush, which means the others are still, roaming freely. It's a huge security challenge. Nigeria is really facing diverse, multi-layered, multipolar violence across the country. We have terrorism, we have insurgency, we have banditry. Now kidnapping is all over the place. The government needs to do a lot more than it is doing now. Security agencies need to be mobilized, they need to be encouraged, they need to be empowered, they need to be given all the resources they need to be able to, tackle this spate of kidnapping across the country. It's unfortunate. Society is not structured to have this kind of wide-ranging security challenges. How many places can policemen actually, be? How many places can military men be at the same time? How many are they? Society is structured to assume that the majority will be law-abiding. The few bad guys, security agents will go after them. But as it is, Nigeria is going beyond what society is planned for to accommodate. And when you have an unusual situation, for you to be able to effectively handle it, you have to also take unusual measures. Perhaps aspect of the El-Rufai model, government should begin to consider it. Declare all of them terrorists. And they are terrorists, actually, criminal terrorism. If you look at how terrorism is defined and what they do, they are actually criminal terrorists. And when you declare them terrorists, the satellites are able to get where they are. You just go after them and then just wipe them off. All of these niceties or what would the international community say? If we are past that stage, all of these things need to be done now for us to be able to effectively combat this spate of terrorism. Then relocating some departments. I've looked at the arguments the government has advanced. It makes sense. But if you ask me, I will advise government to leave those departments in Abuja. because of Nigeria's very delicate political structure. If they are creating a department and putting them in Lagos, fine. But that relocation, if you ask me, I would say because it will just set a precedent where every president that now comes, say, okay, President Tinubu was from Lagos. He relocated CBN departments and Ministry of Aviation to Lagos. Okay, I'm from Kaura Namoda. I will also begin to now, also, that will now be, it will become a benchmark. Given that, the reasons make sense, but it's not all the time that what you consider to be absolutely correct, you follow it. You also have to look at the social environment. The social environment is such that there is the controversy the thing will stir, will be the benefits will be far less than the gains we'll get. Look at the backlash already. And it makes sense. And people are saying, okay, if you say Abuja is too congested or some other reason, you give, why not to Mina? Why not to Nasarawa? That is the argument. And the president is from Lagos. So given all of that, it is better to let sleeping dogs lie. Let this man just remain there. Let whatever challenges they are facing or they have, the government can always rise up to it. If it's infrastructure, whatever it is, rise up to it, and then we can continue the way we are. Then Afcon. Yes, everybody was excited last night. I drove around town to, normally when matches like this are played, I drive right down to try to get a feel of, the whole place was exhilarating. It was electrifying. Some people will say, I see the car we bought. By today, this car will be gone. And all that, around town. So the atmosphere is very exciting. And really, the boys did well. The tactics have been working so far. Last week when we discussed this, we were saying it, that it's a matter of employing the right tactics. In fact, Cameroon didn't manage to get one shot on target throughout the match. They had 6 shots, but none was on target. Nigeria had 8, 4 were on target, and 2 resulted into goals. But we should not be carried away. The others didn't come to sell granuts in Cote d'Ivoire. They came to also win. So they should just follow. They just take it one at a time. And of course, the style, one side fits all won't be good. Look at the team. Look at the pattern of play, and of course, you now place a counter measure, and of course, the measure for you to be able to win. And that is what we encourage. The commitment is there, determination is there, the skill is there, the intelligence is there. If you look at that last goal, you see intelligence. Somebody passes to somebody, he gives the ball back, and he was expecting Iwobi to give the ball back to Lukman. Iwobi looks left, and then gives the ball to the defender to the left, Kevin Bassi, and then the keeper was pointing to the left, thinking he would float it to Osimhen. He saw Lukman in the middle, he just gave it to Osimhen, and that kind of thing. That is how matches are won. If they continue that routine, they will go very far. And of course, we can only wish them all the best.
Professor Kila?
I see that Aworawo is not just an attentive watcher of football, but also an analyst that knows the tactics and see crisscrossing on the field. Well, I'm delighted. I mean, if you're used like me, I'm used to being scared of Cameroon. So the victory tastes like ice cream. Very, very palatable, very joyful kind of thing to defeat Cameroon, because they instill fear in people like me, regardless of what people say. So, well done to the boys. That's a very good thing. The first goal, since Professor Aworawo has talked about the second goal, the first goal is a very Nigerian kind of thing. It was made of determination, perseverance, and a bit of luck. The prayerful Nigeria thing worked here, a bit of error, and you tap into it straight away and take advantage of it. So, fingers crossed, let's just go. In football, Nigeria has some kind of sense of entitlement where we think because we're over 200 million, we should just defeat everybody. It's a kind of illogical nonsense, but it's good for our spirit to reason that way. And talking about the logical nonsense, I think this talk about the relocation of offices is something that tells you about the frailty of the Nigerian system and the mischief of Nigerian elites. On paper, logically, the reason why those offices are being transferred are unassailable. They're very clear. On a very personal note, when they moved the office from Lagos to Abuja, I refer to the FAF, the office, I was public to say this is the wrong move. It makes no sense. Some of us said it then that there's no point in making it because There's no need to take it there when the offices are regulating in Lagos, and there are no provisions for it. You're just going to spend money to move it there. So they've been there with no offices, with no structure. They're taking them back to an office without spending more money, and some people are contesting it. It tells you that this state called Nigeria is so frail that people don't trust each other. Everything is suspected, and that is something we need to look at in terms of institution. But it must also be said that the people who are, it is legitimate. You see, that is the question of institution, frail institution. It is legitimate to argue with and take a position contrary to policies of government. But to base it on assumption, on suspicions, on insinuation and innuendos, quite frankly, is ridiculous. To put it in a very light way. How can you say that because the government is doing this, I suspect their intention is to do that? We're back to the era of body language. You know, those are the kind of things that are not good for our psychic, for our intellect. We should talk about facts. We should talk about pronouncements, policy documents, and position taken by government. Anything outside that is gossip. And I think, what is that thing called? Pepper soup, joint talk. We're edifying. And Wole Soyinka wrote that book about the, what's it called? Not the apotheosis of the area boys. I mean, beatification. We're at the moment of beatification of beer parlor talk in our national discourse. We need to stop that. Professor Aworawo is afraid that this might create a precedent in which one president takes something to one zone, another one comes take to another. Guess what? Welcome. Let them transfer it. Every time they transfer it, let them take development to that state. If they want to be actually creative, what we should be thinking of is what I have called elsewhere urban development through government positioning. Let them take the offices to the poorest part of the country. There's no reason why government offices should be in Lagos, in VI, GRA, Ikoyi. Let them take it to Ajegunle. Let them take it to places where are poor. So that way they'll be forced to develop it. Let them every year, if they want, move the headquarters around the country. Lagos today, Minna tomorrow, Osogbo next tomorrow. There's nothing wrong in it, nothing to be afraid of. We're all here. We're going to gossip about each other. We're going to hate each other. We're going to suspect each other. We're going to fight each other. But we're all here. That is a long approach that we need to look at. My take on that. Then, the banditry thing. There's no other way to put it. Government is losing the war. There's no other way to put it. The police is losing the war. Because you see, the process of banditry is a process that requires identifying who to kidnap, or kidnapping, for example. It's something that requires identifying who to kidnap, successfully kidnapping them, successfully storing them, i.e. locking them up somewhere, taking ransom. When you take ransom, you need to transfer money. You need to gather the money. You need to deliver it somewhere. Somebody needs to collect it. In all that long process, you're telling me that the Nigerian police force, the whole military or security apparatus cannot intercept. Shame on them. There's something wrong there. We need to look ourselves directly in the eyes and say, look, you guys are not getting it right. They cannot deploy technology. I want our viewers to think about it. Under normal circumstances, and we saw it during NSAS, if your phone is used somewhere, you can be detected. How come they can detect it when you want to protect government, but they cannot use that technology when you want to protect citizens? We need a police force that moves from the pre-colonial era. Our security apparatus is built to defend government and those in government, and less citizens, and less to prevent crimes. We need that kind of turnaround. I agree, yes. We need to employ more people, train them, deploy technology, and empower them. But I also believe on the sociological arm that to fight kidnapping and banditry, we need to fight poverty, we need to educate people. I totally agree with that. But I also believe that we need to treat criminals as criminals. People don't go kidnapping and killing others because they're hungry. It is because they're bad. We need to understand that amongst us there are bad people. And the state needs to show that if you terrorize your fellow citizen, you will feel the wrath of the state on you. It is good to manage both things. Otherwise, we're going to lose it. There's no point being fluffy about it. Yes, educate people. Yes, provide jobs. But if you then catch a criminal, you must be hard on them. That's my take. For the ministers, I think the president just wants to create a job, because this idea. I think what is happening is that, given that there are 48 ministers?
46, 47.
46, 47. There are people, you see, when people say that number is high, they don't know the number of people hoping to be ministers. There are over 408,000 people outside there who are connected to this president. I have said elsewhere that President Tinubu is the most political president Nigeria has ever had. The man is oversubscribed. The man has a team of wannabe ministers that have been moving for him for the past 18 years or so. He has a long list. Maybe he wants to create a job for them. But for whatever reason, they want to create a monitoring team. Can I just say it looks ridiculous that over 140 people will be monitoring less than 50 people? What is it to monitor a minister's performance? You write your expectations, your plan, we view it against what you have done. Just for the benefit of our viewers, especially our young ones, the first cabinet, the first president, administration to put out this monitoring mechanism was a Goodluck Jonathan one, in which they put something in place. And if we are serious people, that is a good place to go and start from, because everything is there. And I stop there.
Okay, very good. I mean, we're privileged to have both of you who are professors of international affairs. Let's take the International Court of Justice decision on Israel and Gaza. The UN's top court on Friday ruled that Israel has to prevent any possible incitement to genocide, as it handed down a landmark decision in a case that has drawn global attention. The International Court of Justice has also ordered Israel to allow humanitarian access into Gaza. Friday's session of the court was part of a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of committing genocide in the Palestinian territory. Both countries have testified since the case opened 2 weeks ago, with Israel vehemently rejecting the allegation. In the meantime, several countries, including the United Kingdom, have suspended funding for the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the UNRWA. This comes after the agency announced the sacking of several of its staff over allegations that they were involved in the October 7 Hamas attacks. The UK government said it was appalled by Israel's allegations. The United States, Australia, Italy, Canada, Finland, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Germany have also suspended additional funding to the UN agency. Created in 1949, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency is the biggest UN agency operating in Gaza. It provides healthcare, education, and other humanitarian aid to Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria, and employs around 13,000 people inside Gaza. In a related development, the upper house of the Swiss parliament on Thursday blocked an initiative to end the funding of the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency after aid groups voiced outrage. Well, that's basically the story. On one hand, you have the ICJ within the international legal system responding within the context of a colonial international order. What the ICJ has come up with is to just give a number of measures that Israel should follow after establishing its jurisdiction in the matter, but it did not go as far as declaring a ceasefire. And the interpretations have been both ways. You know, the Palestinians say, oh, they've secured victory. The South Africans say, oh, they secured the victory. The US and Israel are saying there was no victory there, that they didn't go as far as asking for a ceasefire. But the contradiction is, if Israel has been told to provide access to humanitarian aid, how then, do you continue with the war without a ceasefire? But of course, we had also the issue of one judge voting against all the measures and the rule on plausibility that the court upheld. And that's the representative of Uganda on the bench, Judge Sebutinde, who has now been disowned by Uganda on the grounds that she does not represent, the position of Uganda. But then, of course, you now have the allies, Friends of Israel, descending on the UNRWA, showing, of course, hypocrisy. at the heart of the international order. Professor Kila, let me start with you.
Well, let us start by saying that the position of the judge of Ugandan origin, for our viewers' sake, judges don't go there to the bench to go and represent position of their country. They go there as respected experts, as jurists or members of the bench to deliver cases based on law, knowledge, and facts. They're not political appointees. Whether they were approved or not, it's another case. Once they get there, their independence needs to be protected. So whether you agree with her or not, let us protect our independence, hoping that she will do the right thing. Well, I think this is what happens when you deal with a multidimensional case. The law follows its course, and the bench could not have acted otherwise, given the amount of material that is borne to them, given the outcry that has happened. And I think it was an opportunity to create that kind of precedent, and I think they follow that path. The other side of it are all the sanctions that are going on. That is more political. And where politics and economy lie together in the same hand, or in this case, politics and finance lie to this hand, people are going to press their button. They're going to say, we are funding you, how dare you go against us? That is where the problem lies. If Malawi or Mali or Burkina Faso was against the position of United Nations, what are they going to do? Stop funding them? I guess they'll just pray about it. They can't really do that. This is what happens here when truly these countries, look at the countries you cited, that is half of the, actually I'm saying half, that's about 90% of the quality of the world. There used to be a finance expert that says that in associations, some people's votes or voices are not counted, they are weighed. And if you weigh the voices of those people, you're talking Canada, you're talking Germany, Italy, UK, US, that's more than 90% of the world in terms of what they weigh. So when those people are on one side, they dictate the tone, and that is what is going on. I think humanity as a whole needs to find a voice to appeal to Israel, because let's face it, it appears nobody can sanction Israel. Israel can just do as they wish. But again, we say this, but it is important that viewers recognize that the issue at stake is a very complex issue. It is not straightforward. There are books that if you read 2 or 3 chapters and you think, oh God, Israel is devil. In the same book, you read another 2 or 3 chapters and you say the fault is Palestine's fault. So they're very complex issue, because where we are now, there are scholars who argue that the peace in Israel and Palestine could have been obtained, but Palestine messed it up. And that is why we're where today. But there are different ways to look at it. On a personal note, my take is that this is a complex issue, and what we should look for is preservation of life in anything we do. But the court has created precedent with this judgment.
Okay, well, some people have even described it as a milestone, as a historic decision, even if it doesn't go far enough explicitly. Professor Aworawo.
Well, I'm very happy about the ICJ position on this matter. I'm very happy because of the humanitarian angle that the ICJ emphasized. The ICJ managed to tread a thin line, managing to reconcile natural law with legal positivism. The case has not been decided. You have to establish that genocide has been committed and all that. That will take a long time. But in the meantime, what is happening in Gaza, is clear for all to see. And that is the aspect of natural law and, the application that, look, this case, yes, we have established jurisdiction. It will take, of course, quite some time to be able to, investigate and all that. But meanwhile, you have to take measures to reduce human suffering. And then, in fact, the court, talked about the plight of children that is very horrendous and concerning, and that measures have to be taken. The people of Gaza generally, measures have to be taken to protect them. They should not be used as cannon fodder and just eliminated just because a country's security is being advanced. All of those very clear issues that I mentioned. Where people have said that Israel has a choice to just, dismiss what the ICJ has done and simply carry on the way it has done. But the other time I spoke about this matter, I said, I'm very happy that South Africa filed this case because it will help to unravel some countries. And I dare say that the West is being unraveled. Their claim to moral superiority is being called to question by, because before even the ICJ made its ruling, the West had already gathered together to condemn South Africa, to behave as if the humanitarian catastrophe we are seeing in Gaza does not exist. Now, the West is being unraveled, and their claim to moral superiority is being called to question. Because, and the ICJ just, walk that fine line. Say, look, we acknowledge that you take time for us to investigate this matter and then take a position. But meanwhile, you must do this, that, and that. And, Israel also prides itself as having the most highly moral military in the world. This ruling will also, help us to interrogate that. How can you possibly say you have the most highly moral military in the world, and the ICJ rules that we have observed this, and you say ICJs will go to hell? It will restrain Israel, and that will help to draw attention to the plight of the people in Gaza, and by implication, better their condition. The comments regarding allowing humanitarian aid to come to Gaza is very critical, because that's a major issue in the plight of the people of Gaza as we speak. So I'm enamored by the position taken by the ICJ, and we are confident it will make a positive impact on the condition on ground in Gaza.
Well, the fifth provisional measure that the International Court of Justice put there is that Israel should report back to the court in 1 month's time as to what progress it has made with the 4 major other provisional measures that the court handed down. So in a month's time, we would like to see whether Israel will defy the ICJ. And if that happens, the only body who can impose sanctions is the United Nations Security Council. Will the United Nations Security Council be able to do anything?
There won't be progress.
With the UK there, with the US there.
There will be no progress.
But I think it's more of a moral victory and historical point than, a very practical. But we should not underestimate or underrule the importance of this moral and historical point, because at some point they're going to matter. And it shows that the world is changing, really. Who dared this before? Who would have expected this? There's something going on in the world. The conscience of the world, the view, the mindset of the world is going through a mutation that, like all mutations, it is gradual. But we're going to see the effect.
Point. Yes. If the West decides to say, the court should go to hell, and Israel says the same, what moral basis would they have to say North Korea should not develop nuclear weapons? Or Iran? And to quote, 1968 nuclear non-proliferation treaty has been violated. So it is a pivotal moment in international relations.
You know that international relations is governed by double standards and the dictatorship of which is why some people have been calling for the democratization of the United Nations Security Council, which the victors, the allies, have kept within their grip since 1945. Well, thank you very much. Let's take another subject in Lagos State. The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, has disclosed a plan by the state to establish a commercial airline as well as initiate the construction of a fourth mainland bridge across the lagoon. According to Governor Sanwo-Olu, the idea to have a state-owned airport has been in deliberation for several months. He said the state is in the final stages of determining the financing model for the project. The governor also said that the construction of the long-awaited 37-kilometer fourth mainland bridge will begin by the end of March or April. In the meantime, the Lagos State government has also begun the implementation of a ban on polystyrene and single-use plastics, and this has been causing mixed reactions. While environmentalists praise the move to reduce waste and carbon emissions, critics express concerns over the impact of the ban on businesses, particularly in the informal sector. Food vendors express concerns over cost and alternatives, while some fast food chains supported the measure. The ban aims to address waste management challenges in the city, where rubbish often causes floods and environmental issues.
Think about the way people are making use of it is not good because it always block good cutters. But they can still give us chance to advise us that if they use this, they should keep it in dustbin. They should be keeping it because it's not even making sense to be putting food inside nylon because of the chemical. So it's the government to just please to give us a little chance.
I cannot tell you if I'm happy or sad about the news. So for the takeaway pack, styrofoam pack is cheaper than reusable plastic products. So many customers choose to get their food in the styrofoam pack because it's cheap. Now, I don't know how the government will go about this because it's not our fault.
They are our leader. We are the people that elect them there, so we have no option, but they have to look at our own plight too. They can't cancel it just like that. There are some people that are using it as a means of living. So what would they be doing? How about the production people? What would they be doing?
Yes, it's a good news in a way, especially to we environmental experts and sustainability enthusiasts. But I guess it will be a bad news to the larger population of not just Lagos, but the country who actually their livelihood depends in the plastic waste value chain, which is basically mostly single use. We are talking about like the informal sector, recycling companies that depend on collections of PET bottles and all of that. This will affect them. But then it's pros and cons. We are looking at the long-term environmental sustainability and effects of banning this.
We have once lived without plastic. There was once a Nigeria without plastic, and we survived. It is very much possible, but I understand that the convenience of plastic is quite blinding. But I would like to say this: convenience at the cost of our lives and future is too expensive. I understand the harsh nature of this ban on this informal sector, and I sympathize with them, right? But I feel that there's some particular sacrifices we need to make in this present time so that we have a shared future that is protected here in Lagos, right?
Okay, two major issues there. The Lagos state government investing again in infrastructure. Now, the last time a bridge was built here was the third mainland bridge, which was about 36 years ago. And now the Lagos state government has been talking about the fourth mainland bridge since 2017 to link the Lagos Island to Ikorodu and then reduce traffic congestion. And they're also talking about an airline. Well, what is the guarantee that this time around, that 38-kilometer long 2x4, in terms of design expressway, will be delivered this time around? Although the governor pointed out that this will be done in phases. And then, of course, you have the plan to set up an airline for the state government. And then the public health and environment issue about non-biodegradable use of plastics, even plastic spoons, styrofoam, plastic bags, and all of that. Well, in Rwanda, in Taiwan, in some other countries of the world, such measures have been taken. The surprise is that here in Lagos State, while the state government is concerned about climate change, the environment, and public health, they've given the affected persons just 6 weeks. So the notice is quite short. Good idea, but very short notice. And that could affect small and medium-scale, businesses, particularly people who are involved in the food retail business. But Professor Aworawo, let me come back to you.
I would like to begin with the infrastructure, the ambitious infrastructure programs of the government. It is good if the fourth mainland bridge this time around is able to see light of day. That would be fantastic, because it means that people from Ikorodu, Imota, all of those axes will just cut off from that end, and they won't have to come all through My 12, K2, Ojota, Maryland, and all that. So that would just like third mainland bridge has been fantastic in easing traffic. It will be that. But the way the government has described what it wants to do, well, that in phases, we're not very clear about how a bridge will be built in phases. If it's not complete, how do vehicles plow, or maybe some section. Well, let's wait and see how it goes. But the fact that attention is to it and something is being done and being done expeditiously, is good. For the, at the other time when, the immediate past governor was on it, there was this issue of funding. Lagos State is highly indebted, despite the fact that Lagos, is richer than probably some 20, almost 25 states. It's highly indebted. So I would want them to pay attention to all that. Revenue versus debt and all, just like the federal government does. So that all of a sudden, Lagos State that is doing so well is not bogged down by debt and is not able to, measure up. Of course, the same will be said of the other ambitious projects in transportation, infrastructure that the government has. As for the single-use plastic, well, it's a good idea. It all boils down to how much of sacrifice you want to make now for the future to, be sustained. So it is good, but the notice is short. It should have been longer so that people will have time to, adjust, and the impact will not be that, extensive. The way it is now, what can one do in a few weeks to be able to adjust? Those who make the plastic, those who sell it, to adjust to something else, those who use it to vend food, to look for, all of those things. The notice is short. But if you say food vendor, what about the plastic bottle? Research shows that Coca-Cola, bottles are the highest all over the world. It's not only in Nigeria. People have taken stock and established that, Coca-Cola followed by Pepsi. So if you say the world is using single plastic, what about those other ones? Is it because they are big corporations? So these are other issues that the government needs to look into, if indeed the interest is in, environmental protection. But let's wait and see how the implementation goes. But anything that is done to enhance environmental sustainability, of course, should be encouraged and supported.
Professor Kila?
I think the infrastructure thing is good news. I mean, the Fourth Mainland Bridge is something that should be encouraged. I'm a bit worried about how to finance it, and my inclination would be to go for a private partnership where the private sector brings the money in to fund it. In terms of the airport, already also that is a very good thing. Airport and an airline. I am not particularly persuaded or impressed by the idea of the state owning an airport. I mean, I think what the state should say is that we have a need for the airport, we have the space for it. Can we gather private individuals together to do it? The state should be cleaning roads and doing roads, not running business. The state has little or no business in business. Let business people do business and let politicians do politics so that we get a good balance. For this matter of the single plastic thing, you say it is short notice. I think that is an euphemism. I think this is a dangerous, deleterious, insensitive approach of doing a good thing. And there are two reasons for it. Number one is that, let us take the immediate one. The idea that some people, either because they are elected governors or they're nominated commissioners, think they can just stand up and announce something that will affect people's life in a way that will change their life, their savings, their business, their livelihood, and just give them 6 weeks. I think it's a very dangerous thing that we should not allow at all. And I think that it is not for us to condemn it. I will advise all those who are affected by this to get together and sue the Lagos State government and get an injunction for it. A class action that shows that their interest is being tampered with by this insensitive law. By all means, let us save the environment, but let us do it sensibly. Before you phase out by fiat, you need to show people an alternative, give them time to do it, create that alternative. It is not going to kill them if they give them 1 year notice to say we are phasing it out gradually. The government is not anybody's father that gives you, thou shalt not do this again. The government is there to serve the people. What the government should do is to make sure that these plastics are redundant so that you have no reason to do it. The other thing which people are not worried about, and this is part of the reason why the environmentalists are losing their case in the world, it appears that the environmentalist cause always comes only as sacrifice. That language needs to change. The people who defend the environment, and I consider myself an environmentalist, we have the burden of thinking creatively so that people can see the advantage of being good to the environment, so that people can see the benefit of being good with the environment. Otherwise, we have to agree that it is just sacrifice and it's just bad news. Because if it's something just to save the world in 100 years, quite frankly, I'm not going to be here in 100 years. I'm not going to stress my own self for what happens 100 years later. It doesn't make sense. We need to find a new consensus so that people can see the benefit of being good to planet Earth today and tomorrow, and they get the benefit of it. And where there is sacrifice, the sacrifice needs to be dosed so that it does not kill people. Because whilst it might be good to save the environment, it is not good for the family of those using plastic, selling it to get their livelihood, because they're going to be thrown in hunger in 6 weeks. Some people have bought things, they've stocked it there. They didn't know that the government is going to wake up one day and say, in 6 weeks' time, get rid of it. We need to start thinking that way of citizens. When government acts this way, it gives me a sense of people who are not involved in the daily life of citizens, where they think something is good, and they just say it. Probably because their mothers, their wives, their sisters are not selling plastics. So they do not know the pain of it. It is the same way we deal with things. And we have to be very careful. There's a new trend in town which we need to curb. To say that we know it's harsh, but it is needed. No. I've heard people who ordinarily I would respect intellectually say things like, well, even if you're going to have your toothache, your tooth done, you're going to have some pain. No. Today you go to the dentist, you don't feel pain anymore. Humanity, the Homo sapiens, have gone beyond that. We kill pain. We don't have to suffer pain anymore.
Okay, I get your point. The other practical question is, how would the Lagos State government enforce the ban on these single-use plastics?
They're going to unleash touts.
It may be very difficult
Yes.
To enforce. Otherwise, you come up with a discriminatory system. And then how do you cover the entire state? As for the Fourth Mainland Bridge, we're told it's going to cost about $2.8 billion. And that the preferred bidder is CCECC.
The Chinese
and that,
company.
the expressway will be towed for a period of 2 years. So it's a public-private
partnership, yes. So it's welcome, yes.
But if they're able to do it, maybe that will make life easier for Lagosians who have to move from one point to the other and who suffer terribly with the congestion and the poor state of the Third Mainland Bridge. Well, thank you, Professor Aworawo. Thank you, Professor Anthony Kila. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from my entire team here in Lagos. It's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.